Rayman the Animated Series is a 1999 animated series that was released on DVD. That, getting this out of the way, is a series that I really don't like, but this show is one where I could definitely see why it ended up being the way it is. A lot like what I pointed out with Middle School Moguls, Long Live the Royals, and Villainous, this show most definitely has the vibe of an animated series that did want to have more episodes, but they ended up becoming extremely unlucky as a result, because this show in specific only got 4 episodes, but whereas with Middle School Moguls and Long Live the Royals, they only got 4 episodes, but their last episode at least felt like a finale of sorts. Despite how horrible that the Middle School Moguls finale was, it at least feels like the show was wrapped up in a way. The Rayman animated series, on the other hand, there's no doubt about it, this was a show that was desperately begging for more episodes, because there have been instances where companies put out TV show episodes in an attempt to get more episodes. Take Disney, for example, and what they did for the Beauty and the Beast and Atlantis TV shows. They packaged the episodes in a way to seem like they didn't want those episodes to go to waste, but they did so extremely poorly, to the point where they decided to advertise them as sequels to the original films, but because they were received poorly, that idea was immediately scrapped. And I can assume that Rayman the Animated Series tried to do the same thing, but I don't think that it worked out very well, because the show ended up only having 4 episodes, and was released only on DVD and VHS. And doing research for this review, I doubt that the series ever got advertised, and they just threw this into stores, seeing the series as disposable, or they did try to pitch this to a network, but it never got picked up. And big statement, I know, but I can definitely understand as to why that might be. While not an absolute failure like Bubsy, Rayman is a franchise that during the first few games that were released, it was hugely overshadowed by Mario and Sonic, to the point where anything that they did outside of the games would obviously get a lot more attention, due to the fact that they were so big at the time. Like, the games got advertised, and they were semi-popular, but I don't know if the networks really wanted to take a chance with it yet. Especially given the fact that video game adaptations around that time were not so good, to put it lightly. And this franchise that only had 2 games at the time was a risky move to air in regards to its series. And also, they presumably only had the first 2 games to work with, even though this show does whatever it wants, though apparently Admiral Razorbeard is an antagonist from the second game. But then again, the Mario and Sonic cartoons were like this too, so I can't get on to this series too much. Doing a bit of research on this show, there were plans to have 26 episodes, but the production literally stopped by episode 5, leaving the show unfinished. Probably because of the fact that this show was not really able to get picked up by other networks that wanted it. And I bring up the production of this show because in regards to my thoughts on this show, I find it to be bland. But full disclosure, outside of Rayman Legends, which is the most recent game in the franchise, I've never played any of the games in this series. But similar to what I did with Thundercats Roar, I'm going in and judging the show by what they deliver as a series on its own merits, because that's what animated shows are supposed to do. And the best way to sum up the Rayman animated series is that, take the rough first seasons of an animated show and make it to where that's all that the series is. I'm talking like The Simpsons, Eek the Cat, Beavis and Butthead, Dexter's Laboratory, SpongeBob SquarePants, Code Lyoko, etc. But they aren't able to grow past those first few episodes. That's the problem that the Rayman animated series has. With how sudden that the production ceased on this show, the entirety of this show just turned into establishing the main characters, but not really. Because most of the series, after all the main characters escape, just became what I could describe as a show where all the characters do is run around and escape from a certain situation. And I'm already getting Lewis and the Aliens flashbacks. And after the first 2 episodes, the show then turns into a more episodic kind of series, indicating that if the show was actually able to finish the intended 26 episodes, the series might have been more akin to something like The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog or SpongeBob, but that's the issue. The series doesn't have enough time to do anything else, now that the show is starting to get things rolling. Given that even in one of these episodes, the characters are still essentially running around, trying to get themselves out of danger, leaving most of the characters completely uninteresting. And no joke, doing some research on this show, despite how scarce the information information is, they're only exclusive to this show and this show only, and they are the most cardboard cutout characters imaginable. Oh, Cookie is the stressed out leader type of character that gets needlessly uptight a lot of the time. You mean like Double D from Meta and Nettie, which came out less than a year before this show even came out? Meanwhile, everyone else are the most stock main characters that you could choose for an animated series. Like the only girl character that stands out from an entire group populated by guys, the big dumb but lovable character that has a hard time with his grammar, and the tiny cute character that is forcibly wanting the audience to find him cute. Bettina, Lackmack, and Flips. Those are their names. And the only reason as to why I mention who they are, because the show is so busy constantly having the characters run around that it barely takes a moment to let anything sink in. The only character that you'll remember from this show is Rayman himself, because he's literally the title character, but I'll remember him for that, as well as an issue that I have with him. Rayman in this show is voiced by Billy West, and right from his first appearance in this show, you can tell. Because point for point, he is using the exact same voice that he used for Stimpy from Ren and Stimpy, or even Fry from Futurama, given that the show was new and airing at the time. But part of me feels as if Billy West is kind of phoning things in this show, because a consistent problem that Rayman has in this show is that a lot of his inflections are very weird, and for the record, I've watched enough of Ren and Stimpy to know that Billy West enunciates his lines well, so that this isn't a problem. Either this was an intentional decision, or they just didn't ask him to redo his lines, as Billy West throughout most of the episodes pronounces words that end with an R with an H, and he generally sounds low energy while doing most of his lines.
My, friend here can fix your car. Thanks for the car. Car! No reason to panic, it's just a car. We'll find her. After all, she's in the car. Yup, his car is gone. What does he think we are? The bar is fake. See that bar? That park over there looks safe. The scrap yard.
When usually, Billy West sounds so much more high energy and enunciates his lines much better than this.
Then all you need is a hammer and some glue. And viola! A disco mirror ball! Bender, it's us, your friends. You can drop the hillbilly moron act.
And as for the animation in this show, it's okay. I mean, nowadays, the animation is extremely dated, given that we now have shows like TMNT 2012 or Fairly Odd Parents: A New Wish, which basically pushes the medium to another level entirely. And at the time of this show's release, this was like 2 or 3 years before Jimmy Neutron. But given the competition of what was going on at the time, this show's animation was pretty good, as the expressions do look pretty nice for the most part, and motion-wise, the show's characters move in a way that is very smooth. Although, I will say that the animation is dated, because given that this show came out around the time that companies were still trying to get used to the technology, a lot of what this show does in regards to the visuals make the show look exactly like a video game. Though, the show was produced by a video game company, to be fair, and besides that, another consistent problem that the visuals have is that there are certain points in the episodes where the animation feels like it's stuttering, as if the show was recorded on a DVD that was on the verge of hitting an error due to the disc getting scratched up. So you'd have to walk on eggshells in order to keep watching the episodes. But only, the episodes are still functional in this show, and that the episodes really are that rigid. The show does still have much better animation than Donkey Kong Country, which came out 3 or 4 years prior to this, but is basically better in how it looks, but worse in how it moves. But with Donkey Kong Country, that show is so bad it's good because of the many bizarre moments that it has, and it can make for very good riffing material.
I'd shower you with coconut cream pies.
The Rayman animated series is not really memorable enough to get any ironic enjoyment out of, but it's not bad enough to really hate it that badly. Due to the fact that this show did go through production difficulties that resulted in episode 5 getting scrapped, a lot of the things that I brought up in this review might have been patched up had this show been given more episodes, but as it stands right now, it's a very 4 out of 10 kind of show. The show didn't get me riled up or bored to the point where I had to take breaks after watching each episode, but it's very bland, with also very bland and underestablished characters. And due to the fact that this show suddenly stopped after a date episode, the show basically ends with all the characters' IQs dropping hard, and they all think that the detective is gonna stop going after them because he's dating someone, when that's simply not true.
Everything I